Hey, welcome back to the Weekly Grind, DLS latest, I guess, weekly content for the 2021 season. My name's Peter Howard at PA Howdy on Twitter, and we take more of a dynasty approach to weekly events. So what happened last week and what long-term outlooks might we adjust based on that? We've only had 3 weeks, but 3 weeks is an important threshold where we're getting a better idea, especially of wide receiver usage, with 3 points to average, and take a look at how it's working out. Injuries and obviously usage problems on per game scripts affect that. But it's a pretty interesting week to start thinking longer term about some players. Now, we get a lot of trade questions and trade value questions, and everyone's mindset is much more on the weekly grind right now. And whether this is a weekly show, we're happy to answer those, happy to talk to you. Please drop comments wherever you're watching. I think this goes to like 3 different places. So feel free to drop comments. We're trying to answer them. Just be aware we're trying to think more dynasty moves on a weekly basis. So instead of whether we sit some player this week, we're more thinking, is it time to buy Jaylen Reagan or Javonte Smith, given that they've both had pretty interesting usage through 3 weeks, and they're both fairly young players, and you can probably only trade for one rather than trade for both of them in any given dynasty league where you're placing your bet. Is there anything to separate the two out? Especially since, I don't know what Jaylen Reagan's value is right now, because in season ADP and value that we use for dynasty players tends to be a little more skittish. We still do monthly ADP with Ryan McDowell's mocks at DLF, but they're a little more affected by the weekly events. And so trying to think more holistic or more long-term in dynasty, especially if your team's struggling or you're thinking of yourself as a team that's looking more towards next year. And that's kind of where we live right now. This wasn't meant to be that long. I get to talking, Anyway, luckily we have a genius on the podcast who knows stuff about value and trades. Dynasty Outhouse, always happy when he can join us. So let's get into it, bring him on, and maybe he can make this better.
Why? No, make it stop. Thank you.
Thought that would be fun.
I'm sitting here rocking the hell out to that awesome rocking DLF music, and then all of a sudden my face.
I had it set up right, and then I saw you dance, and I was like, "Yeah, that's better." I just take me out of it. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm ready to go. That DLF music will never not get me pumped, and we pretty much spoiled half the things we're going to talk about before we started recording. So because we just kind of started talking, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, we should have started 3 minutes ago. We should probably save this for the show."
Right. Yeah, I love that DLF music. That's all Addison Hayes. It's just him on the table and he hums it. It's pretty impressive when you think about it.
Wow, that's a skill.
They can do those things with his mouth.
Moving on.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to pump it along. I'm going to share it on Twitter that we're live. And I wrote down things this week like a professional.
You fancy.
Questions that I had, at least. I put out a long tweet thread around 6 a.m. And obviously that's when I get up. It's not that I hadn't been to bed yet, and just so anyway, that I had, and it left me with a bunch of questions I asked on Twitter, and we got a few questions there too. And we're just gonna kind of run from them. But just more broadly or specifically, if you've got something in particular, is there something going on in the 2021 season that you think has a longer term dynasty impact that people might not notice, or might have noticed, or might not know how much to lean into it yet? Like, what's really sticking out in your trade radar, or what you really want to do with your teams right now? Anything in particular?
It's besides the few people like Davante Adams at one point literally had a 50% target share. Besides those guys,
that was fun.
It seems that the ball is moving around a lot, even when it comes to running backs and their touches, wide receivers, and the amount of targets each of them get on the team. It seems like the ball is getting spread out a lot more, and it seems more than normal non-fantasy relevant players are getting the touchdowns, and it is tilting beyond all belief. But again, everyone's kind of being affected by this because the Titans refuse to throw a touchdown to AJ Brown or Julio Jones, or hell, throw it to Anthony Ferkser. Oh, he's hurt. Never mind. But really, why is Chester Rogers the dynasty wide receiver 1 right now? But he is, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, sorry,
Is he?
2 behind Zach Pascal. You didn't disagree with that. No, but like my big
I'm
takeaway
looking. I
is
like that surprises me. I found him on every waiver wire and thought about it. No, right now, total PPR points. We're looking.
no,
It's
I
Cooper.
was being facetious.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was gonna say it's
But like
Cooper Cup.
he's caught far too
There,
many touchdowns.
there is an interesting person at 2, but we'll probably talk about him at some point.
I mean, let's just move on to Connor's question. So Josh Allen was Josh Allen last week.
Yeah, that's specifically because I finally picked up the courage to point out that he was inaccurate again. And so he was like, oh, yeah? Did he say that about me live on the Dynasty yet? Okay. And that's what that's about. I wouldn't worry about it. It's a personal feud between me and Josh Allen. Now,
Who don't you have a personal feud with at this point?
if they could step forward, I'd be more than happy to start one. I mean, so let's say none, and we'll start any that I'm missing. Yeah, what else was it I noticed about that Buffalo game? Speaking of, I was going to say to your point, I feel like we've had less of that, but we're getting a stark reminder that sometimes the player you don't know on rosters gets a touchdown. Feel like we've had slightly less of that. Tannehill was doing it at a slightly higher rate, that feels like. Let me see, week 3. Yeah, it was Emmanuel Sanders that went off.
Yeah, he went nuts.
Wide
Yeah.
receiver 5. Dawson Knox was tight end 9, apparently. Cole Beasley, wide receiver 10. Zach Moss, wide receiver 15. That split between Moss and Singletary is probably just going to keep up. I think both form good roles. Both get lower ceilings because Josh Allen sucks up enough of that rushing. As for his accuracy last week, it's going to happen. I mean, you still got Stefon Diggs. Cole Beasley is a high catch receiver. Whether he'll take a vaccine or not, he can still catch a ball better than most and plays at the area of the field where you can get that kind of efficiency. And Emmanuel Sanders, I mean, people continue to fade age and it continues to kick them in the ass, but Emmanuel Sanders is still pretty decent. He's
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the weird thing is the Stefon Diggs deep rate, the deep pass completion rate. Last year, he was first 7 for 7, and now he's 1 for 8. I think it is something ridiculous like that. Josh Allen can't keep up what he did last year. You're going to have a bit
You're
of
going to
a
have
roller
games
coaster
because he's not bad, not as bad as some of us. Me, I literally thought he was going to be, put it that way. But he's also not as good as we saw as last year. But he's got good receivers. It's a good offense built for him. And so he's going to go off in games. I think that's what we saw last week. I think that's about what you're saying, right? I just spoke right after that. Yeah.
No, you get me. It's fine.
I'm in a Dynasty 2 QB league, and the only QBs I have are Rodgers, Mayfield, Minshew. I actually kind of like Mayfield in Dynasty. He's cheap for not great reasons. Any guys I should be targeting? That's kind of what I'm asking as well. In terms of Dynasty, it's about rolling your roster upwards, and so who you're rolling up to. I mean, the obvious answer is just Kyler Murray and Patrick Mahomes. Those are the ultimate goals, I guess.
Well, he's in a 2 QB league, so he needs at least one more starting quarterback. And honestly, at this point, it's going to be your QB3. I think you roll out with Rodgers and Mayfield every week when they're healthy and not on a bye week. So, like, go for Teddy Bridgewater. Nobody likes starting Teddy Bridgewater, but he's like the safest person ever when it comes to fantasy football. Like, he's going to get you 12 points. At least if you're lucky and he throws a touchdown, you get 16. Yeah, every once in a while you get 20 and you feel elated about it. But like, honestly, nobody really wants Teddy Bridgewater on their team. And since it's 2 QB, you're kind of screwed when you have a bye week because, I mean, fingers crossed Minshew won't start. I mean, not for you. I'm sure you're crossing your fingers he does. But I mean, I want Hurts to do better than he has been. So I don't want him getting benched. But yeah, you need another starting QB. And man, like, the thing is, there's cheaper quarterbacks than Bridgewater. But I think when you get
not many
past that price level, oh, there are. You don't want that guy. Like, you don't want to go buy Big Ben anymore. Because that's just not going to go well for you.
Everything's about for how much, but in general, yeah, you probably don't. You do target older quarterbacks at that value as well, and in the Teddy Bridgewater trade range, I don't mind targeting those older guys, but you've got the best one, which is Rodgers. Maybe Matt Ryan for next year. Maybe that's a new Big Ben discount older quarterback that can still get you pretty good weeks, maybe with upside. But outside of that, I think Sam Darnold at the same price as Bridgewater. If they're close, I think there's
Oh
more
yes, if
upside there
those
with
two are the
Sam
same
Darnold.
price, still go get Darnold
Yeah.
because he's going to be a starter for longer than Bridgewater is.
And if you're looking for something that's, you have to pay a little bit more, but it's still probably at a discount, I think people are disappointed in Dak Prescott right now and Joe Burrow. Those will be the two higher tier guys I would try to target.
Yeah, and when you're talking to the person who rosters Joe Burrow, just be like, "Hey, man, this is the most run heavy a Zach Taylor team has ever been. They clearly don't want to let Joe Burrow go nuts." And then in 5 weeks, when Joe Burrow starts going nuts, you can just start laughing at him. But that is a true fact, though. This is the most run heavy the Bengals have been under Zach Taylor.
Yeah, so it tends to be which way you want to go. Are you trying to increase
Yeah.
your ceiling, or are you trying to just get that third guy? Especially at quarterback and super flexing, I slide towards. I just want three guys. I'm not gonna as long as I got three startable QBs. I try to find my upside elsewhere, but that depends on your scoring league. We talked about last week, where I said I'm in that one league where startable quarterbacks aren't it. You need the good quarterbacks, like in a Scott Fish Bowl type scoring system. So that could change it as well.
Makes it too hard. I don't want hard. I like it. I like when games are easy.
I mean, you could also just say in your league, I mean, if Tom Brady is on a team that sucks, I mean, he's going to do it again this year. So you'll probably get a discount on him, and there's upside and a decent value there. That's a potential as well. Good to see you guys. You too, Ridley. Appreciate it. Yeah, I do have your question written down, but that's cool too. A-Rob Fields bounce back game versus Lions Sunday? Question mark. Really don't want to start Fields till we see something. No, I couldn't start him. Just based on how it's going, especially with rookies. I sit until it's almost just too obvious to start them. Most rookies all the time forever. So yeah, which it leads into some things we say in the off season, like don't plan on starting rookies. Okay, that way you get disappointed with them. You start selling them before you should. Don't depend on them as starters. Really don't want to. But if you have no one else, well, you kind of you don't actually. If it's actually super flex, I think an underrated move is starting a running back or a wide receiver in that super flex spot. You don't have to start the quarterback, but you're probably not winning that league if you're not.
Well, one game, man. Like it's the Lions. Their defense is bad, but also Justin Fields scored four fantasy points last week. I think it was.
Yeah, and I don't even know who's starting this week. I just read on Roto-Viz that Andy Dalton is back at practice. Fields is getting X-rays, and Nick Foles is in the wings. So I probably.
It has become painfully obvious that Nagy wasn't ready for Fields. Like he drafted him, or at least the team drafted him. Who knows if he had part of that decision, which seems like he didn't, because he still wants Andy Dalton in there for some reason, even though given the right offense and the right coaching, Fields is a freaking great quarterback. But he just, he's pushing Nick Foles. I mean, come on, man. Like I was telling Peter before we started recording, where this is like Lamar Jackson all over again in his rookie year, where he was going to sit the entire year and then Flacco gets hurt. And then Lamar Jackson did great because he's Lamar Jackson and ran the ball like 20 times a game. But that was still a Joe Flacco offense. The next year came, they got Greg Roman. They changed the offense to be a Lamar Jackson offense. This is an Andy Dalton offense. This is not a Justin Fields offense. And they did not try last game. And it I don't even know what they were trying to do last game. Probably just nothing. So I'm with what Peter was saying. If you can start someone else, you start someone else. I don't care about the matchup. I'm with Peter. I will wait until it seems painfully obvious that you have to start Fields, which will come eventually because, like I said, he's very good, but it's not now.
Yeah, it also kind of makes me maybe think you need to change a lot, or you're doing that thing they call building. Which I don't know. What else was I going to say? I think we get wrapped up. This is something I was thinking about earlier in the week. We get so wrapped up in us telling coaches how they're being stupid, just start Justin Fields, that we forget that we probably don't want it to happen given that situation. Like you should start Fields, and then we feel like it's going to happen because Fields has been forced to start. But you're missing the part that where there's reality here beyond our
Yes.
fantasy game, and you've got a coach that doesn't want to do it, that hasn't prepared for it, and actually probably don't underestimate the pettiness of a human. Like, coaches are just people. They didn't want this. They're
Yes.
not happy about it. Don't
Oh no, yes, that
don't
is
their
absolutely a
professional
thing.
me. They've I'm
I
not
mean,
gonna get into it.
Mike
I've
Shanahan
seen
literally ruined Robert Griffin III's career because he didn't want him there.
there are there are more than one examples of wide receiver where lower draft play, like, the only way that I can interpret what happens to make it make sense, like, in that's a thing that can exist in reality, are coaches deliberately just like, no, that player doesn't get to be good in this league, screw you. Don't underestimate that. And so, yeah, maybe I think that he should have started Fields, but it didn't matter. Like, at a certain point, I didn't want to see it happen, because I mean, getting a rough start to your NFL career then gives this attitude out to other GMs. Oh, maybe he's a bust then. That's kind of what I feel like's happened with Tua right now. You have a rocky start, and you find that draft capital and that college career does less to earn you the confidence to give you your shot, and you have to earn it more. And opportunity is kind of everything. So I know I would take that lesson from it too. Like, I think he should have been ready to start Fields too, but he never was. Hopefully,
Yes.
Fields can get back on the field. I do believe he's an amazing player, and it won't matter in the long run. But I mean, there's a lesson there, something about, we may disagree, but if it's a team that doesn't want to do it, don't draft them to be a starter. Or I know you
Yes.
didn't, because it's Dynasty. It's probably just the best pick in your rookie draft. But I've seen people start leagues that way. Like, he should play him, so I'm gonna draft him like he's a starter right now. Like, good luck with that.
Yeah, that's what that comes down to. Good for you, because you didn't have to deal with it. Yeah.
Like, I've got a heuristic I'm trying to write. You know what those are? It's a weird word. Adam Harstead, Football Guys fame, the nerd, over at Football Guys, he talks about heuristics. I don't know if it's a real word. He's smarter than me and knows more words, so I assume. But they're like short, sharp slogans or sayings, something you could put on a poster that's like not always true, but it's a good guiding principle kind of a thing. So, like, flex wide receivers. You can put it on a poster. It can be a slogan, and you don't always flex the wide receiver, but it gives you a good guidepost. Like, don't buy or do buy injured running backs, depending on which way you lean on that.
Enabling someone to discover or learn something for themselves,
There
a
you go.
hands-on or interactive heuristic approach to learning.
I don't know why you read it to me. That I have no idea what that means. Anyway, one of the ones I'm trying to
I
get
was
into
curious.
my lexicon of heuristics is that I'm a spectator. Like, we draft teams, but have no say in how it goes. It's like you're trying to cast the best dice roll you can, but they're gonna tumble. And so, listening to some of that ancillary stuff, it's become increasingly important, and I still don't have a good way of explaining that. But that spectatorness to fantasy football, I think, is somewhat underrated, because I could make a better decision for Justin Fields. That means there's upside. Well, that probably might be some downside there to start with, despite I would have drafted Justin Fields like second overall in a Superflex rookie draft.
Yep.
Still, to be very clear, long term, I'm happy for him, but it does, I don't know, it's something to learn. Or something I've learned the hard way a few times. Why do you guys think benefits the most from the James White injury? No one?
No one.
Yeah, I think James White is James White, and that's why he keeps having this kind of prominence in offenses. It's a little harder at running back, but a little easier when that running back is best used in the passing game, because receiving works a little different than rushing. And we did get a question that probably explains the question a little bit. Dynasty DJ at Dynasty DJ2 asked, "Are we buying JJ Taylor?" And I had to look him up.
That was going to be my guy. I was just making sure I had the right last name, because I knew his name was JJ, but I almost went to say JJ Nelson, but that's a receiver from the Cardinals from like 6 years ago. Yeah, JJ Taylor has absolutely nothing to do with the Patriots themselves. It's us as fantasy football fans who liked his profile coming in, that we're sort of anointing him the next James White. The truth is, there probably won't be one. They're just gonna, I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna give it to you, Peter. It's gonna be Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne is the one that's gonna benefit the most.
Above average replacement level in terms of NFL value. players on that team. Like they've got
Yes.
more than enough good. Myers can definitely take more. Hunter Henry so far is underutilized in my opinion, and is above average receiver. So's Jonnu Smith. Like there's no need for JJ Taylor. I went and took the look at the usage just because I got the question, and I didn't. It's just one game, but like he barely got used. I didn't say anything particularly. Right now, 3 weeks from now, once the role's been open, maybe he earns his way into it, but I don't see a reason to expect it to happen.
Yeah, I doubt it.
But I mean, if you got a free bench spot, you always stick a running back on the end of it.
Yeah.
I don't mind it being JJ Taylor, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
that's what you do with bottom, at least because I hate running backs. They always let me down. In which case, my bottom roster is always filled with those kind of running backs that, the zero RB style guys that you love that will come out of nowhere, or the receiving backs on teams that handcuff their original receiving back.
The Adam Thielen, not Adam Thielen, I just like saying his name. Christian McCaffrey's injury this year. I think I've been hurt too many times. Like every now and again, there's a running back. I'm like, I'm willing to get hurt again, and no, probably not. No, Jonathan Taylor's receiving usage is interesting. Najee Harris was basically just all the targets last week. I got asked.
Najee Harris had more targets in that one game than the two people who are tied at the number 3 for most targets to a running back. Najee Harris had, I can't remember the number, but it was like 20 something targets. The second running back had like 19, and then the next two had 17.
Well,
Najee Harris had 19 targets that game.
He's had 19 targets. Doesn't you just say that? That's a lot of targets for anyone. And the way I've been saying it is like he has a 20% target share on a per game basis this year, and that's because of week 3. Like the first 2 weeks don't matter. He just had so many targets that week 3, averages over an empty 3-game sample into a 20% target. It was pretty insane. I did get a question when I was talking about this podcast. YouTube video. I know what it is. Are we selling Najee Harris? And that was an interesting question to me because it made me think, are we buying then? If like I get Pittsburgh sucks ass right now, but there are good players there. That offensive line and that quarterback holding them back. A heuristic I do have is by players in congested situations, by good players in congested situations. I think Najee Harris is good. I think Claypool's pretty good. Don't like him as much as others, but right now I probably do. Juju is good, and Deontay Johnson is good. Like I just, because you get a slight. Everyone doesn't know who's the lead dog, and you get a slight discount normally. And where the offense is what's causing the congestion right now, it could lead to value. But like, there are very few running backs in Dynasty I would say are actively buying, like at full price. Like these are the guys I would invest long term in at running back. There's none, but there are a couple this year, and that's Jonathan Taylor and Najee Harris, maybe Swift.
Swift was the one that came to mind.
Yeah.
Well, see, here's the thing. I like the idea of trying to acquire everyone on the Steelers offense, not including Big Ben. Or, no, that's a lie. I was about to say no tight ends, but I do like Freiermuth. But they're next year. You are not going to get anything consistent out of them this year. Najee Harris is not going to get 19 targets every single game. That offensive line is trash. Ben is toast, which means his receivers just aren't going to do well. But, Juju's gone next year, in which case Claypool, who at least profiles as that X guy, can be that X guy. Deontay is the underneath guy. So, you have your setup that the Steelers always had. Like, when Antonio Brown first started to become a thing, it was because I think it was Emmanuel Sanders at the time, or was it Mike Wallace? I can't remember. He had a fast guy on the other side, and then you had AB, and then it was Martavis Bryant for a year and a half until he just liked marijuana too much. And like that seems to, like, the Steelers never stopped taking wide receivers, and it's because, well, they're good at it, and because they just like to cycle. And I think that's where we're going to be next year. They're not going to magically turn this offense around. They need a lot of new linemen. They need to lose games to get a good quarterback, which their defense is too good to lose out. That's the unfortunate truth for the Steelers, and they're going to play. So, yeah, I am all for trying to get anyone in that offense, but I don't think I get excited about it for this season.
Yeah, like Najee Harris has 9 targets per game right now. And that's just because of week 3. But Christian McCaffrey was averaging like 5.3. And before that time, Harris had 3 targets and 5 targets. Do I think Harris can be a 5 target a game, like top 3? Yeah, that's what I expect.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm not worried because he had not, like, if anything, it's like, yeah, he can have games like that too. And at running back, I can't underline enough, there are so few, unless I'm really pushing to win. And right now, that's, you're trying to get up to Derrick Henry, essentially, Alvin Kamara and Swift. The fact that they could be on that list and are young, so will be, good dynasty value next year. Like, that's what makes them those players. So, yeah, there's no need to. If anything, this is all good. So yeah, I got a few others here. Ridley, but he looked so good in preseason, the last against 4th stringers. James White. I think
we're talking
JJ
about
Taylor. JJ Taylor.
I think he was maybe, I don't know, either. Moving on.
Yep. Got an offer in the same league. Yeah, this is one I wrote down, I think. I sent a screenshot earlier. A first for Tyson, Matt Ryan, get A-Rob and Jamal Williams.
No.
That's it.
No. Okay, so
you don't want Allen Robinson, basically.
Which hurts my soul, because I love me some Allen Robinson, but yeah, I'm not buying into that Bears offense right now. But also because he will never gain dynasty value again, and he's not scoring points. So what good is he right now? He's 28, I believe, and going on 29, and you're not going to gain your dynasty value back. You're too old at that point, not to mention being that old and going into a new offense next year, because he is not sticking around with the Bears. Jamal Williams, he's going to keep getting touches, because if the Lions are smart, which they seem to be, you don't give Swift 90% of the touches, because at least last year, he seemed to get a little ankle issue-y when he touched the ball too much, and you want to avoid that. So it's great that you have a capable 1B in Jamal Williams, but like you're not going to feel good starting either of those two, in which case I just hold on to my first, no less sending. I don't remember.
I'm not getting rid of a super flex quarterback and a first.
Is it a super flex league? That was going to be my question. Like,
for what is essentially Allen Robinson, who I do want, but I'll talk about that in a second, and a temporary top 12. Like, that split is impressive for Jamal Williams, but they're not going to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt it up all year. And certainly not I wouldn't bet on that. And Tyson's
especially next year if they start getting better.
Going to be fine. He's going to be a running back 2, not a flex, but he'll be a decent running back 2, I think, when healthy going forward as well. Like, I just don't understand what he thinks he's giving you there. It's like, hey, would you like less? Oh, yeah, I'm good. And I would say I do want Allen Robinson, but it's because he won't accrue dynasty value. It's because Chicago Bear wide receivers actually do a good game. Both Robinson and Mooney are getting more volume than they're currently producing on, and they're both good players. And even with throwing 6 times a game 6 times last game, or whatever it was he said, like, eventually a good player will do something on that volume. And so I do think there's going to be some good performances. But that means that I think the year is going to be terrible. So I'd probably target Allen Robinson this offseason when the value increase is definitely done just because of age. And we've just seen probably a below average season. I like buying older wide receivers who I know are good, that are discounted for stuff that can change easily. But right now, I mean, he's trying to get rid of them because he knows that's coming. You should be like, I know that's coming too. So he can give you the discount now if he wants, and you'll take Allen Robinson, but you're not paying. You both know that's coming.
That's way too much.
And I think Allen Robinson is going to be in a lot of trades. I got another question about him, and I tried to explain the same thing on Twitter. It's like, it's not that I don't want Allen Robinson right now because I think people are panicked, so they're willing to trade him, but I'm not going to give you what he should be worth. Like, that's why you want to trade him away. Like it was Jamar Chase and Allen Robinson and a first, and I think it was, or something like that. And I was like, look, he's trying to trade you, Allen Robinson, like he's still worth 2 firsts. And he shouldn't be. Like, I'll trade Allen Robinson for a first all day long, but they know that value is coming, and they want to get out before it gets there. But it doesn't mean
it's already there.
That's what I mean, because no one should be doing that trade. So if they're willing to sell right now, but they're going to be paying off-season prices or getting off-season value for him, not, well, he should have a good game soon. I think I explained that somewhat. Let's see what I think that was your question, Ridley Truther. So I get to cross that one out. You asked us on Twitter, should we be trading a first plus for Sutton and Christian Kirk? I think both are worth a first. I would pay a first plus for Sutton. I'm trying to pay a first or less for Christian Kirk. So a first and a second, or a first and a player I don't really mind giving up. And whereas with Sutton, I would hands down give 2 first value, or just straight up 2 firsts. Like, that's the difference between the players for me. But you're the trade guy, so you actually do these well. Does that sound reasonable?
I mean, I do. Well, I mean, I don't think you have to give a first for Kirk, even still now.
That's why I wanted to bring him up. I don't think you do, but he's a really interesting target right
now. Okay, so the capitalist pigs leagues don't equate to anything because they are just so different.
Fair enough.
But I traded Dallas Goedert for Christian Kirk and a second. Now, it's an auction league, so a second isn't really as valuable as a normal second would be. But in a tight end premium league, like, I was thrilled to get Kirk in a second, but to me, I got Kirk for like nothing, because I don't believe in Goddard. So, like, to me, like, that just shows what the value of Kirk is, or not really. And like, that's what you should be aiming for. Don't pay what his value should be. See what you can get him for before you just be like what Peter's saying. And he's absolutely right. I'll send, without even thinking about it, a first and a second for Cortland Sutton, even though for the right team, I might be willing to send 2 firsts, but I'm not going to start the offer at 2 firsts, because chances are most people don't think he's worth 2. I do. I've always been a Sutton fan, and I know
that's probably why
I'm talking in this specifically, but I mean this in like a greater sense, where, especially when you're talking multiple first valuations, step it back a little bit. Don't throw too much out there. If you want to just get the deal done, more power to you, but hurts my soul a little bit to give up too much. But there are times it's absolutely necessary, and I get it. But right now, week 3, I don't think that's that time.
No, the Arizona split is actually something I had in my notes. Like, AJ Green and DeAndre Hopkins are basically the same guy right now, and it's because Hopkins has been banged up, but AJ Green is much more involved than I think most people realize. Like, he's the wide receiver 2. I think Hopkins is still the wide receiver 1, and it should improve throughout the rest of the season. Kyler Murray's just dealing. And Christian Kirk's numbers look good overall, but I think there's more value going still to AJ Green and DeAndre Hopkins in terms of fantasy volume. And so Kirk is an interesting buy, but long-term it's more. Short-term it's probably Hopkins when he gets back to health. And AJ Green is doing more than enough to kind of split the work for Kirk until then. So I like Kirk. He's interesting because I really liked him as a prospect. I think he's going to be decent. And I would buy... Like, all of these guys are probably at good value because Hopkins is old. AJ Green, everyone forgot existed. Christian Kirk has been a disappointment for 3 years. So I think all of them I'd be interested in adding. If I'm just going for one, long-term it's more. Right now it's DeAndre Hopkins. And the other 2, if I'm getting for like less than a first, like, I'd trade almost anything for less than a first. Like, sure. Yeah, and it's a second-round pick. I don't care. Let's do it. I like that play or whatever.
And the Cardinals receivers are like a nice little set of stairs where you have AJ Green, where you can probably get him for a third. The right person, you can get Christian Kirk for a second. DeAndre Hopkins, you can get for a first. Rondell, you're probably going to have to pay 2. But that still should get it done. You should be able to walk away with Rondell Moore sending 2 firsts to someone, unless that someone's, like Zach Reed, who has had Rondell Moore as his wide receiver 1 in that year, the entire offseason and all of that stuff.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, the Arizona and the Chiefs should be equating them very much in our head. They're high-passing teams with incredibly accurate quarterbacks. The difference is they don't have a Travis Kelce, so the wide receivers are actually sucking up the wide receiver 1 role, and they don't have an inconsistent wide receiver like Tyreek Hill. Now, the other difference is their best wide receiver is undoubtedly DeAndre Hopkins, and he's not a young dynasty stud in our walks of life, which means you get a slight discount. And so it's exactly like you said. Like, it's as if you didn't have Travis Kelce in Kansas City. Like, Tyreek Hill becomes that much more attractive. I think Christian Kirk is an upscale McCall Hardman. But right now, where Hopkins is still banged up, like, I think that's interesting because this is a wide receiver core that functions with volume, so you get more touches than touchdowns like you get in Kansas City because there's no Travis Kelce. And that's why you say he's upscale. You're going to get weeks from Christian Kirk. With McCall Hardman, it's just you're going to get weeks because Holmes can pass a touchdown for 100 yards to anyone. Like,
well, not looking.
Not anyone, not like I'd die. But like most people that in the NFL, he could make fantasy relevant for a week. But where Kirk is a volume receiver without a Kelce, he's going to get more consistently good weeks. But if I'm targeting anyone, it's Hopkins with an age discount, and it's more long term. And that's it's really interesting dynasty.
Yeah, it's funny because that one team itself is like a great dynasty study.
Yeah. And like I spent a lot of time this offseason telling people to chill. Like, we've got 3 fantasy relevant players on a team. Like, that's enough. That's more than half the league get. So like, stop wanting this discount tight end to be a thing because it's probably not. And then you have some teams that are just always going to be those producing multiple assets. And that's why being a wide receiver 1 for like the Jets or the Jaguars isn't more valuable than the wide receiver 2 for Kansas City, which doesn't have one because there's a tight end and then a wide receiver 1, or Arizona. Yeah. Like, that's not the right math. It's not alpha is better than beta. It's I want the beta on the better team every time. And because we get like at least 4 to 6 teams producing 2 top 24 wide receivers. Yeah. And so that's why it's not always wide receiver 1s are better than wide receiver 2. So Arizona and Kansas City, if anyone in your league has not yet put them in the same tier in terms of offense to target, make sure you do it first, because I think it's going to be one of those offenses. Very short true. Though he be, because size Twitter and BMI Twitter just continues to. Well, I nearly went for a baseball metaphor there. Like, it's misses. Like, every time. Like, it's bad. Like, Kyler Murray is short. Screw you. So is Russell Wilson. And Drew Brees. Like, it doesn't matter. It's not a thing.
There's 3 of them now.
Yeah, there's been, like, every time we have a great player who's slightly short, they're just great and slightly short. Just deal with it.
And look, just because we had a 6'8" quarterback, Brock Osweiler, that went super well.
While we're dealing with interesting, I think, dynasty values at wide receiver right now. And Mike Williams.
Yep.
I still hold the position at the same cost I want Keenan Allen, but through 3 weeks, and now we have 3 weeks, so it's not just it's only one game. 3 weeks is significant. Mike Williams looks real. And he's getting the volume, man, like Herbert likes to go to him. And it looks like it's going to continue for the season. That can always change. But like, it does look real. It doesn't look like Mike Williams just having a couple of good games. His usage is there. It's not just long touchdowns. He's getting air yards. He's getting target share. Again, for the same price, I'll just default to Keenan Allen. But I think Mike Williams might come easier than Keenan Allen. Maybe?
Yeah, we're used to the dependability of Keenan Allen, so that floor gives him a very decent price for competing teams. Mike Williams, you're going to get a lot of people that don't necessarily believe they're wrong. Hashtag Team Clemson big wide receiver, and I know coach speak is coach speak, and I will always agree with coach speak that helps my narrative. And my narrative is that Mike Williams is a good football player. Lombardi came out and said, in my offense, the X wide receiver gets the ball. Mike Williams is our X receiver. Bam. And it's happening. And he has a very, very good quarterback. And there are other people that need to be defended on that team. You can't leave Keenan Allen alone. You can't not guard Austin Eckler coming out of the backfield. That's really good for an X wide receiver that can't be triple teamed. And
it's another one of those offenses. You just want the second and third options on that team above the first option on others.
Like, people at this point forget how highly drafted Mike Williams was. It was weird that the Chargers took him at the time. I was completely shocked, but they did anyway. I think it was like 17th overall. and how weird of an introduction to the league he had. Like he tore a hamstring in training camp and missed most of the season. Then he hurt his neck again, where he
His
probably should
injuries
have.
kind of lagged. Like from that, he had an injury in college where he looked like a very different player statistically after he came back. But that injury, like I forget the recovery rate, but a lot of people don't walk again. And he came back
Yeah.
and played football. So he's had injuries and he's now
But
over that, I would hope.
to me,
And
it's like
so
the
the
Keenan
start of
Allen
his career
thing.
has lagged.
Like at the beginning of Keenan Allen's career, we called him injury prone because he tore his ACL and he got hit so hard his spleen ruptured. But like the two things have absolutely nothing to do with each other. But since he got two major injuries 2 years in a row, we were terrified. We called him injury prone. And
We call Matt Stafford
Mike
injury
Williams,
prone. Same reasons.
Exactly. And like
No, he's just another good example of it.
And so was Frank Gore when he started, and that dude could still play if he felt like it. Now he just feels like boxing or something. But like I've always been all in on Mike Williams, and I still am here. I am ready for it. I'm happy that it's here. So if you can find someone that doesn't believe and is willing to sell Mike Williams, man, for less than a first, yes, go do it. For a first, I still say go do it. Like, especially if you're a competing team, your first you want to believe is going to be the 112. And in a year where we're not going to have 5 quarterbacks and we don't have the stud power we've had for the past 2 years so far for what we know, man, I'll give up a 33% hit rate pick for Mike Williams, who has hit for close to 25% of the season already.
Again,
no, that's a little too short.
I would try the Keenan Allen on a first for whatever you're willing to trade away. But Mike Williams, especially for this year, I think Mike Williams has an age problem in the sense that his upswing here is coming late. It's actually a really interesting year. We're getting a few of those. You've got Mike Williams. It's like the Devontae Parker year. You've got Christian Kirk. You've got all these fourth-year players doing exceptionally well. I think we might be seeing a ceiling, but with Mike Williams, I think it might last for most of the season, so I'm okay trading. I think he's going to be good. But I just always caution. I think ultimately it's going to be Keenan Allen 7 times out of 10 is the way I'd rather go. So I'm just saying that. I'm probably going to send an offer to Keenan Allen off on it first.
But I mean, along the lines of someone like Keenan Allen, you clicked off it before, but Brandon Cooks for a first. Here's it's what you have to do. And if I'm a competing team, again, I think my pick's going to be the 112. I will send that all day for someone who's catching the ball like Brandon Cooks does.
I think
again, that dude has like a 50% target share because there's no one else to catch the ball.
I think this is a problem, though. Like I was saying at the start of the intro, the problem is there are so many targets, but which one? Like if I'm in a dynasty, I've only got one first, or maybe 2 if you've traded for one. So who is Keenan Allen? You can only trade for one of them. Is it Brandon Cooks or Mike Williams? I'm saying no. That's why you create a list. Essentially, Cooks is on it, Mike Williams is on it, Keenan Allen is on it. But you've got to organize it and send offers one after the other and see.
But also, some of the decisions are made for you when that person's on a competing team.
Yeah. And so you send it for Keenan Allen. If it's rejected, you move down to Mike Williams. If it's rejected, you go to Brandon Cooks. And that's what I think the answer for me is. You just got to create a list of which one has the dynasty and this season value, and then see which one you can get in your league. And so make sure you narrow your list in. That's why I keep saying one over the other. It's not because all of them are good values. And for example, right now, I would target Odell Beckham at slightly less.
So you want to hear something crazy? In one of my leagues, Odell Beckham went for a 22 and 23 first.
Yeah, his value never really came down, despite coming
It's ridiculous.
down.
Like, don't get me wrong. I believe in the idea that Odell Beckham is a very talented wide receiver. I unfortunately believe that offense still, for some reason, feels the need to just target the hell out of him no matter what, which I don't know why they haven't seen. It's bad for their offense. But they do it. But it's still the Browns. It's still a team that doesn't like to pass the ball too much.
I was going to say that's the problem. It's more, and to be fair, it's hard to. I mean, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are both pretty good. I probably want them heavily involved too. So I get it, and that's Odell Beckham commands a large target share, a large share of the offense, but it's now a smaller thing to have a larger slice of. But I still think in some leagues you're going to find players, especially after the start of this season, he just wasn't starting. They're just ready to give up. They're like, I'm tired of this, and it's going to be
deal with it anymore.
Less consistent, more, and so you might find trading for him a little easier road. But yeah, so I put him on this list as well.
If you can get Odell for a second, I think I do that all day, because if anything, he will be a safe wide receiver 3, which if you're in a 12-team league where you start 10 players, at least like the majority of my leagues are, you're going to need a wide receiver 3 eventually. But we've also seen he has the ability to put up a 40-point game out of nowhere. And for your wide receiver 5 that you're starting, that's something great to have on your team.
Yeah, and for players like who are we talking about? Cooks. Like, I think the window, like, people were like, oh yeah, oh sorry, everyone's saying don't forget Brandon Cooks is good is right. And so like the window kind of passed a little bit. I think the window might be still there on Marvin Jones, maybe. It's a worse pick, but the window might still be there just because the Jacks suck. But it's definitely Marvin Jones on that team so far. And so like he would be higher up in the list for me because I think I get him slightly less. And I think it's a similar bet. Both good players. Cook's much better and much more proven, but Marvin Jones has been a top 24 receiver every time he's healthy on 2 different teams.
Jones, yeah.
I mean, he's fine. And so if you're just looking for that, flex / wide receiver 2 production for this season, Marvin Jones probably comes a little easier.
Yes, definitely does.
And so, yeah, I hate...
Also because Brandon Cooks is still like 23 years old somehow.
Yeah, somehow it's like... I think he's regressing. I think he's 22 this year. No, I hate this because when I listen to podcasts, they have such good names and they hype me up about players, but I'm like, I can't trade for all of them. Like, which one? Whichever one I end up trading for will be the one that busts, obviously.
But I traded for DeAndre Hopkins after week 1, and look what happens. I mean,
kind of have to make a list and make some sort of ranking based on future value and present value and how likely you think that is. I was trying to, we should stop thinking... Everyone says we should stop thinking in rankings and start thinking in terms of tiers, but I think it's a slight... What are those things called where those filters that you can slide up and down? Like on a website, you can slide it to the left and you see so much, and then you slide it to the right and you see even more. You remember? I don't know, the little slidey rules, and that's what player ranks should be.
Are they not just called slide rules?
I have no idea, obviously, but it's
that's
like
what we
the confidence you have that they're going to have value right now, and the confidence that you have that they're going to produce points this year. And it's about percentage of confidence, not even about one over the other. And then there's some kind of mental calculation of which is a better balance of both for you. And that's why there's no the target, or at least not for me. It's about make a list and then start sending trade offers top to bottom on them. Got Mike Davis, Devontae Adams, Eckler, I know, McLaurin, Kamara. I'm just reading his team because that's a fun flex, and that's
a very good team. Good.
Russ and Teddy on a team I'm referencing. Yep. Sutton Kirk manager counters for you just do that.
Go do that now. Yes.
Yeah. I would say while I still love Michael Gallup, I think his value is coming down. I'll acquire him for less than he is right now this offseason if I can. I think the one that's still holding on a little bit, that wide receiver 2 with less draft capital, that everyone's kind of been waiting for the bottom to fall out. There's Mooney, there's Gallup, and the other one is Robbie Anderson. There's very much a back and forth between Robbie Anderson and Terrell. I want to say Terrell
Harris.
That one, Marshall. I don't think he's dead quite yet. And so he'd be probably the player I'm more interested in for this year. I still think he's
so hurt on Robbie Anderson. I really thought him going back with Darnold was going to do, because they did so well when both of them were healthy in New York. I live in New Jersey, and the Jets and the Giants play in the same stadium. Jets tickets are like a third the price of the Giants tickets. So I go see a couple of Jets games. And so I've seen Darnold and Robbie Anderson play together. And when they are both healthy at the same time, Robbie Anderson's not just a deep threat guy.
He's a really good player.
Like 7 for 110 and a touchdown. And it's not just big plays. Like He
Well,
played
last
like the
year,
wide receiver one on his team, and I was excited that that might happen now. And I don't know if it's game plan. I don't know if it's defenses. I don't know what it is. Don't get me wrong. I love that he's feeding DJ Moore. Finally, someone is. But I really thought that Robbie Anderson would be a thing, and
yeah,
he
just
is
remember Robbie
not.
Anderson walked in, dropped his A diet by half, and he kind of took DJ Moore's lunch. And DJ Moore is amazing. He's always been amazing
Yes.
in the league. One of the best performing outside the top 12 wide receivers I've literally seen through
The
3
dude
years.
could just, get some allergy shots so he's not allergic to the end zone anymore.
I guess. And Robbie Anderson really pushed him last season.
Yes.
That says a lot about Robbie Anderson, to me at least. Like, he walked in, played in a role he traditionally wasn't playing in, and pushed one of the best yards producers in the game. Like, he seriously had most of that work when he first joined the team, and that says a lot about Robbie Anderson to me. But he's not fat, so people don't like him. 23 BMI. And I slipped it in there, but is DJ Moore in the top 12 of Dynasty wide receivers right now? Because I think if that's the case,
people are too burned. I don't think he is anymore.
He's kind of a buy in all situations for me right now. He's young enough. He's amazing.
He
He's having his best year. Like, go.
I mean, I joke that he's allergic to the end zone, but it kind of feels like it's a little true because I don't get how he catches the ball so many times. I don't get how he gets as many yards as he does, but like scores one touchdown a year. If he can get like 6 touchdowns,
he's never had a quarterback that doesn't struggle to produce touchdowns, and I think touchdowns are much more of a quarterback stat. Sam Darnold, which is another question I got on this list, I think maybe he's good, and he seems to be able to produce touchdowns better. That with DJ Moore is top 12.
All right, so I just pulled up September DLF ADP because this is a DLF show, and DJ Moore is, oh wow, he is wide receiver 13, and Keenan Allen is actually wide receiver 12, and I love that, and I respect these people that drafted him like that.
Yeah, that's weird one.
But yes, going back to the question that you just asked, yeah, Sam Darnold, he's good. Like, we forget that he was taken with the 2nd overall pick. It's just that he spent his first contract under Adam Gase, and what happened after Tannehill left again?
I don't do a lot of quarterback evaluation.
I don't really.
But if something requires merely accepting the position that Adam Gase sucks, I'm in. I don't even ask questions. Like, do you think Adam Gase sucks? In that case, I'm right. I'm like, I'm in. Do you want to know the argument? Nope. I'm in. And so I'm willing to bet on that. Yeah, that's fine. And the thing is, if Sam Darnold doesn't have to be world beating, he just has to be able to create touchdowns, which is a certain kind of element to a quarterback's game. And I don't know what it is. I don't know how quarterbacks work. But Teddy Bridgewater is a good quarterback all around across the board. He's decent. And not throwing it down the field much doesn't mean you can't produce touchdowns, because most touchdowns are inside the 20-yard line. But he still has a lower touchdown kind of over his career. Yeah. So, Sam Darnold doesn't need to throw it down the field too much or ball out or be Tom Brady to create touchdowns. You just have to have that in your skill set. And so far, it seems to. And again, that plus DJ Moore equals top 12 for me. And that means that this year, he's going to keep producing. Next year, he'll still be young and be in the top 12, perhaps, for his first time last year. Like I say, he's kind of, if there is a guy at the top of my list, because I think people might still be a little trepidatious, like Cooper Kupp's going to outproduce, but I think people will be less willing to trade him because multiple 2-touchdown games are hard to give up. But so I think DJ Moore potentially is tradable. And I can't think of a situation where I wouldn't want to add him to my team. So if there is a one, it's really high value though. I don't think anyone's throwing him away.
I agree with everything you just said. Yes, but but like you said, there are people that are worth paying for at their price, and I'm with you that DJ Moore is one of those people.
I think it might be slightly underrated. How much so? Just that's why I put the top 12.
100% again, and it's really just because of the touchdowns, like you were saying before. That if he had those touchdowns, he would probably be a top 5 wide receiver in Dynasty. But he is very, very good. He has an insane amount of yards in his career, and receptions are okay. But seriously, if it was just if the dude can just score some touchdowns, but we never really held that against Jarvis Landry too much, and not to compare them player style wise. But like, what happened that one season when Jarvis Landry scored 10 touchdowns for some reason? He was the wide receiver 3, and always had an insanely safe floor of like wide receiver 10. Jarvis DJ Moore may have just finally worked himself into that, in which case by now, because the value will probably just go up.
Speaking, like, I try and keep younger players outside my top 12, especially when thinking about who I like for long term or right now, because again, we just discount old guys. Why Keenan Allen being wide receiver 12 seems high, but honestly, it seems fair to you and fair to me. He's that type of player. 2 like DJ Moore that kind of fit that category. Like, they're both good and they're exceptionally young. Is Justin Jefferson. Obviously, he's already there. There's kind of a question of whether CeeDee Lamb belonged there with Amari Cooper, and I'm kind of convinced through 3 games. Like, I still think Amari Cooper is alive and well and infinitely startable, but I think CeeDee Lamb's making the case that he's the wide receiver 1 now, which again, like, CeeDee Lamb impresses again, I guess. There's not a level of football he can perform at where he doesn't impress. And that is, especially for up against Amari Cooper for the volume percentage, if you like, because that's how I rate who's the 1 and who's the 2. It's kind of CeeDee Lamb. And I just wrote on a sheet, CeeDee Lamb is something, huh? Like, I don't know.
He sure is something.
I can't say that any stronger. Like, that's impressive. That's very impressive. Impressed with you, sir. And the last major thing I've got on our notes is Kyle Pitts. We all know what's going on, right? The volume's there. He's not getting touchdowns. The Giants freaking suck. Barkley returned fully last season, and that's probably going to keep up. I mean, Kyle Pitts is going to catch some touchdowns eventually. His usage is there. We know what's going on there, right?
Yeah. You said it multiple times this show and for the past 2 shows also. You really shouldn't be depending on rookie players to score fantasy points, especially rookie tight ends.
Having said that, and I'm saying this because I feel like there might be like some very worried, because there was so much value in Kyle Pitts this offseason, like turning down Christian McCaffrey, and now he's hurt. That's the thing. And I don't want to make you feel good about that, because that, despite John Bosch being a very smart man who's better at many things than me, I think he got a little over his skis. He still doesn't think so, but I know it could happen, but you would have to be more than good this year. And so far, I think we're seeing the dip because he's just being good. It's good. This is good. This is all good. It's not okay. It's not what they thought good would produce. Being good isn't good enough at tight end to maintain that level of value. Like, I'm feeling smug on 2 fronts here. Like, his volume is there. He is good. I said he was good. He definitely wasn't worth that. I'm smugging it up. You know, like, don't panic. You definitely overpaid.
Yeah. The reason John Bosch loved Kyle Pitts, it was more than just the player himself, which he does love. It's literally the safest asset in fantasy football.
It's a safety. Yeah, he's not. That's the thing. It went up so high, it almost has to drop a little bit, doesn't it?
No, like, there's no reason for it to drop at all. It's funny. I asked someone asked the question, if Kyle Pitts were to just sit down and not play the rest of the season, would he still be a top 3 tight end? And my response was, he'd be the tight end 1 if he just decided to sit right now.
In terms of positional ranks, but in terms of trade, like, you could literally trade for any other player for him right now, and I don't think that's any longer true. That's a drop to me.
I don't know. I'm going to go try now just to see if because I really don't think it changed that much. I still believe that, because, again, you shouldn't have been depending on him. I get it. He walked into the greatest situation you can. A terrible defense. We didn't see Matt Ryan falling off a cliff, but Julio Jones goes away, and all you have is Calvin Ridley. Sorry for what other names I can't even think of right now, but I can't think of your name. Sorry. That says something. But again, rookie tight ends, man, like, you can't really depend on it. And when you get those flash years like Evan Engram, what happened to Evan Engram ever since? It didn't mean anything that rookie year. And if you go back and look at the numbers and think about it, he was bad for the amount of volume he had, Evan Engram. But the thing is, the value of Kyle Pitts won't change because of everything I just said. the people that are holding on to him will say, "Oh, well, he's a rookie tight end. So what did you expect him to do?"
He got a deal done. That's pretty cool. I think this is an interesting question. Glad you agree with me completely about this. What's the value of CMC in a 12-team league? I don't know. I honestly don't.
Everything. In a one quarterback league, he is 101. Even now, it's funny on Trade Addicts. I kept calling him injury prone because I thought it was funny, and like I wanted to speak it into existence into the mind of fantasy players, so I can try. Like I want to be able to. I've never had CMC on one of my teams before, and I want to see what it feels like. Yeah, but he'll never get cheap enough for me to buy him until he's not good anymore. But CMC, he's everything. He's in a one quarterback league, 3 firsts. I mean, at least he is easily the best player in fantasy football. This does not change anything. Missing 2-3 games isn't going to change. Even in redraft, I wouldn't discount him because he'll come back and he's going to score 30 points a game. It's until his usage change, until his talent fades, or until he literally can't stay on the field anymore. That's what he is. That offense is him. He is he's way too valuable. Do not sell him at any discount whatsoever.
He's not being placed on injured reserve. I was just wondering about his chances of coming back this season.
Well, they said he should return within 3 weeks, which is why they didn't put him on IR. So if he misses, even if he misses a full 3 games, and so what? We just had week 3 and this is the week he got hurt, right? So 4, 5, 6. He comes back. You have 10 more weeks of who's going to be the points per game running back 1. That's awesome. Winning just those 10 games puts you in the playoff.
I think, his value is probably the same, especially since he's meant to come back this season and it's a hamstring. He didn't lose a leg or nothing. Not to diminish the injury, but
if he lost a leg, I would drop his value.
Maybe. I don't think his value changes. I think what changes is I and probably others are more willing to trade him for that value. I'm nervous. 26 next year, multiple injuries, back-to-back seasons, and despite him being a very different type of running back, the type that I love, I'm tired of being hurt, man. And if it's not this year, then it's next year that his value does start to drop because we know that happens with running backs, even though many of them continue to perform, Derrick Henry and others up into that 27, 28 range. Le'Veon Bell did too, and he was a different type of cat. And so I'm not eager to, but I'm suddenly more willing to trade him for 3 firsts. So I don't think his value changes much, but you might find the person who has him in your league is more willing to trade for that value, especially if they're not outright winning. And I have Christian McCaffrey on our team, and without him, I'm probably no longer winning week to week. So I'm more interested in trading him away. So if you are, and you're looking for that stretch run running back, plus, again, Christian McCaffrey is probably going to be great every year he plays. So next year and the year beyond, worth sending an offer.
I might hit you up in the DLF league tomorrow.
Yeah. I don't know if I would, but I'd say I'm more willing to trade him right now than I was last week or last year or this off season while he was still injured, just because my team's kind of struggling without Christian McCaffrey, and I already wasn't as locked in winning with him in that particular
I'll give you Robbie Anderson. It'll be good.
I'll think about it. But yeah, that's what I'd say to you, man. It's if you don't have him, I might try to send an offer because he's still good. He'll probably still keep going good. But I think the willingness to trade him has probably changed. We already talked about Sam Darnold, so I can cross that one off. And I talked about AJ Green.
You want to talk about the Eagles?
Yeah, sure. What you got?
Well, you brought it up before the show started.
Yeah, I did. That's the next thing on my list. I'm finding Jaylen Reagan. I'm cautiously optimistic I wasn't wrong, and that's a scary position for me to be in. Like, he had a disappointing rookie season, which is usually a 94% miss rate, so the highest hit rate we have. But looking at his stats, I could make a positive case. So I drafted him as a startup draft in our DLF Pods League. And normally I wouldn't, because there was enough positive there, but it was still very clear he was probably going to tank out, especially since they just drafted another wide receiver straight away. That didn't show a lot of confidence. I think Smith's helped him out. And right now they're kind of 1A, 1B. I think Smith has the air yards. He's probably the wide
Yes.
receiver one. But Rager's making a real good case that with Smith, he can produce fantasy relevant numbers. He didn't last week, but I mean his volume's there, which is kind of what I was hoping to see last year.
Yeah. No, but that's I've always been a Rager fan, but I knew, or I felt, I should say, I don't know anything, but he is not an alpha. He's not the X. I was thrilled when the Eagles, I was hoping they would take Chase again because I was hoping the Bengals wouldn't, which means T. Higgins is still the dude there. But I was still happy when they got Devonta Smith because that leaves the underneath open for Rager. And that's what you do. You give Jaylen Reagan the ball in space. He doesn't need to go downfield. He doesn't need to be running any complex routes. You know, let Devonta go do that. That's absolutely fine. Like I was happy when they brought that guy in. And like your question, well, take a step back. You're right. Disappointing, like really bad rookie years is a very bad thing for wide receivers. Like I feel like this is an extenuating circumstance with how bad the Eagles were. Like it wasn't even the good kind of bad like the Jaguars used to be, or like they are now again. You know, this wasn't a garbage time kind of team. It was just a garbage kind of team. Like even when they were losing, well, their defense was good, so they weren't even losing by 20. But like they couldn't do anything, and I think you get a little bit of a write-off for that. But even still, his value dropped so low that it
really did. That's what made me feel comfortable, like drafting him in that league and saying I would.
Like people did give up on him, and he did not get a fair shot, and now he has that fair shot. And
I like him.
Hurts is Jekyll and hiding a little bit, which makes me a little upset with how good he looked week one.
I mean, it's positive. And I just want to put a name on Jaylen Reagan. I'm thinking Corey Davis, like by himself. I love the player, but I mean, he doesn't make it happen for himself. And that's where I'm at with Jaylen Reagan. Like, I think he's good. I think he's going to be good in a good situation. I think he's pretty a good player.
Like, would you in be upset NFL, with a more athletic
he's not
Tyler
able
Boyd?
To do it for himself. I mean, that's even that kind of range. Yeah, he's good.
Like
athletic.
Like a more athletic Tyler Boyd is a great asset for your fantasy football team.
Like this year, I wrote up Devonta Smith because he's clearly the air yards leader. Like he's getting the majority of the valuable volume, and it's helping out Reagan. Like that's the way I want to frame it. 23 BMI. Mr. Smith is just dragging the athletic freak that is Jaylen Reagan up with him, and we love it. I like pointing that out. Sorry, but I think both had down weeks last week, but they're getting volume and they're together. They're pretty, like you said, Hurts is a little hit and miss, but I think it was overall positive considering how Hurts is coming to this league. He's got less draft capital. The Eagles have been wishy-washy on even being confident with him. It felt like. And I think in that situation, he's being pretty impressive. He's got legs. They all have legs, to be fair.
I was about to say,
but you know what I mean. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think Smith, I'd buy both because there are teams I will just write off. I'd rather have the two on the Eagles. And it's nice to say that because the Eagles have sucked for a while now. They made my neutral team list. Like, I don't know if they're good or bad anymore. I want to wash my hands of this.
Bring back the LaShawn McCoy, Jeremy Maclin days, Deshaun Jackson, Britlets. That was the heyday.
I mean, Hurts and Goddard still underrated. Like they're both still good. I mean, Hurts was tight end 7 last week.
I'm just kind of done waiting for Goddard to be a thing.
But he's already been a thing. He's top 5.
Not consistently though.
That's a top 5 tight end. Like.
Yeah, but exactly.
It doesn't matter how much I write or explain this. Like, unless you're the two from that generation, there is stop it. There is no who are we going to add to the Travis Kelce list? No one. We're lucky to have now.
I never expected him to be Kelce, but I expect him to be a consistent part of the offense, and he's not a consistent part of the offense.
For a tight end production wise, it's fine. It's fine. Same with Ertz for a significant discount. I mean, Hawkinson's the closest this year, and like we saw last week, the offense stinks. So in a tough matchup, even if tight ends have gone off, he's not going to be able to do what those other good. I mean, he's in a worse offense. Mark Andrews, same thing. Not scoring touchdowns right now, but if you're not those two, you're one of these other guys, or you're just Mike Gesicki. You're a streamer. You're fine.
Was never. I was a fan of Andrews the player. I was not a fan of Andrews the landing spot. There's not enough volume for a tight end to live. He needs to be way too efficient. This is not the
year to go back. Off season, the Ravens don't pass enough. Twitter is having a hard time this year. That's what they're still not passing a lot, but it's where all the value's going. It's Andrews, it's Williams. Eventually, it'll be Bateman. I mean, the Eagles are just going to put it in their good players' hands, even if they don't pass a lot. Like, it's not all about volume. No, but seriously, you're right. They're like bottom 3 for pass rate or something like that this year. Not quite what I was hoping for, but I spent a lot of time this offseason explaining I was hoping for something that probably wasn't going to happen. But with the injuries, it's at least, again, they're passing around 27 times a game, I think. They've got a 42% pass rate, which is bottom 2, just above New Orleans, believe it or not.
That's so weird.
Right? Where'd Drew Brees go? Serious. Oh, no, wait. So I don't have it filtered just this yet. Ravens are third from bottom, behind or above Cleveland and New Orleans. But again, Cleveland's got 2.
Cleveland, we know. Cleveland, backs, we expect. Right?
Yeah. New Orleans is a little weirder, but again, that what game was it where they just completely shut down everyone? It was New England, probably, right? Jameis Winston get screwed up against New England.
Yeah, week 2, whatever it was, where you went from 5 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, I think it was.
I think that's having a large effect on it. But yeah, I mean, they're still passing, like, what did I say, 27 times a game? So in terms of overall volume, they're still bottom half of the league, but they're a lot higher than they were in terms of
Remember, like,
volume.
3 years ago, 27 was insanely average. Like, that was a really good game, throwing the ball 27 times.
Yep.
Now we have, last year's Bengals and Cowboys where they were throwing the ball 50 times a game, or the Falcons.
It's just 3 weeks of leaving out, but right now we only have 6 teams passing less than 30 times a game.
That's pretty. I mean, that's the way the league's going, but that's pretty. I'm just an old man yelling at clouds. It's fine.
Oh, I'm happy to yell with you, man. I'm feeling like an old man. Have you noticed, no matter how old you get, if you just want to think of yourself as an old person, there's always someone near you that's like, "Oh yeah, how old are you? You're still a baby." It's like, no, I want to think of myself as the old man in the room. You bastard.
Well, no, see, you gotta find other kind of people. Like, I talk with Mike Sipes a lot, from Dynasty Trades HQ, and he turned 50, I think it was last year,
right?
And he's like, "Oh, I know I'm 50, but I feel like I'm 20." And my horrible dad joke is, that's funny because I felt like I was 50 ever since I was 20.
Yeah, same around. Yeah, me too. No, I was talking to John Bosch the other day. The guy I was just giving shit for his Kyle Pitts take. And he's right. He's just also not right. I called I was saying I'm old now, and he was like, "No, you're not." Because I don't even know how old John Bosch is. I think of him as timeless, but apparently
I think he's like a good 200-300 years old. You can't tell. He just always looked the same.
He just won't let me think of myself as old because he's older than me. I think it's unfair. Anyway, Tampa Bay are currently passing 47 times a game. That's what I was trying to get around to.
Well, they also don't have a running back. So that's
speaking of old men, Tom Brady is throwing it 47 times a game.
Well, that also helps that he's not human. So
yeah, I get that. That's helping him out a lot. I
guess. We don't know exactly what he is: alien, cyborg, android, mole man. We don't know.
I think he's a man things. built by supplements at this point. What is the stuff he's pushing right now? I don't know.
Subway.
Pittsburgh, the only other team passing is often 42% pass rate. Nigel Harris, and when you got Nigel Harris, you've got to pass the ball, I guess. Oh, we're missing things, by the way. I forgot we were doing a show. All right. Appreciate it. No problem, man. It's literally what we're appreciate it. Hang on a second. Why don't we have your name under you? I noticed this last time. Like I'm doing something
when
wrong.
You bring up a thing, our names go away.
Oh, is that what happens? Okay, I'll take it away in a second. Are the Raiders becoming a passing game to target? I just want Darren Waller.
Carr's throwing the ball at the best deep rate in the league, or at the most, I should say. Maybe not best, but I don't know, man. Like, okay, so is it weird that this started really when Jacobs got hurt? Like, is he going to get healthy next week and maybe they go back to being 50-50 and Carr all of a sudden doesn't throw the ball deep as much? I don't know.
No, I think Carr's capable of it, and he'll do it in games where it's necessary. I think he's got a great deep ball receiver in Ruggs. That's what Ruggs did in college. He was an incredible playmaker when you give him an option one-on-one somewhere. And I think Brian Edwards, despite not being on the team to illustrate it, is probably still talented. This team's still going to function through the middle game, though. I think it's a Darren Waller team. Ultimately, I think this is a 3-game thing. It's like So no, not more than usual. If you completely rip them off, then you probably have to elevate them. But I think they're a decent passing offense with a decent quarterback and decent weapons. But the only fantasy asset I want is Carr and Superflex, or Darren Waller. I think the others are always going to be overvalued or undervalued.
If you have a lot of starters or deep rosters, I don't hate holding on to any of those wide receivers. Like if you can you're not paying a first for Ruggs anymore. You're not going to be. Exactly. Hunter Renfrow, you're probably not even paying a second. I guess you have to pay a second for someone that has a name recognition at all. Getting those guys on your team, they're going to have times when they are useful for your fantasy team. I mean, I don't think they're going to be every week starters. I don't think I feel good starting Ruggs every week, but getting that game where he goes for 122 and 2 touchdowns, you're going to feel great.
I think that's the way I'll say it there. Woohoo! I'm just going to call you woohoo because that's more fun to say. Woo! One. I think they're a passing game to target not after they've just had a good game, because they're decent players who are going to produce some weeks. Waller's going to be consistent week to week. And every time they have a good game, their price is going to go up, and I will not be targeting them. And every time it goes back down to average, I'll be happy to target them again. So, yeah. And zigging and zagging on the Raiders. They're a decent team, though. Don't overrate it.
They're better than I thought they would be.
Is Javonte the guy to target right now into the end of the year? He's a running back to target right now in Dynasty, I would say, outside of Nigel Harris. Again, what are my ranks to start the season? Nigel Harris, then it was a guy who's injured now and I don't want anything to do with because James Robinson is law. And now, and then Javonte Williams. And without ETN, it's just Najee and then Javonte Williams. And Williams is the one who still looked like he's earning his way out the committee. So it's probably a little easier maybe to get. Yeah. Yes.
It will be because he's not producing very well. But also the truth is Melvin Gordon's probably gone after this year. They brought Javonte Williams in probably to be the guy.
And he's increasingly pushing. Like he's got a lot more of that offensive share than Swift or Cam Akers or anyone did last year this early, except for Jonathan Taylor. So, yeah, I would say it's so far looking wheels up. Like it's happening this year. Do it now before it happens.
Like you can probably get him for a random first and a third, in which case you easily do that because he was like the 108, 109 last year. So and he has done nothing to make his value fall. So if you can get him for a first and a third, man, even a first and a second, because what the hell's a second especially in what's supposed to be a not very strong class.
I would add any other type of pick to a first to get Javonte Williams, and I'm not particularly worried about it. Aaron also asked of any other running backs with that in mind. I think we listed him earlier. Again, for Dynasty, all situation buys at running back is a very short list. I think Christian McCaffrey you made an interesting case for him buying him right now. Outside of that, it's Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor, maybe DeAndre Swift, and we'll throw Williams in too because I forgot his name earlier. So yeah, that's the list of all situation buy in Dynasty for running back. Outside of that, I can't be hurt this much. Running backs hurt, man.
If you go in with the price,
I want to say Barkley, I want to see CMC, but I've been hurt too many times.
Oh no, I'm ready to be back. I was already back in on Barkley, but if you find the right teams that have guys like Derrick Henry and Aaron Jones, guys whose values literally just won't go up just because of their age and situations.
Yeah.
If you can get Aaron Jones for a single first, you go do that. If he's on a middling team that doesn't think they're going to win, or they're thinking too far into the future, because who knows what Green Bay is going to be next year? I mean, they're probably going to be a Jordan Love offense with maybe no Davante Adams. Yeah, so but right now for this season, Aaron Jones will help you win a championship, and that's what really matters. Winning is worth it. You know, if you're going to send your first, you might screw yourself for a couple of months until the next firsts unlock, but it doesn't matter. Go win this year, and Aaron Jones will help you do that. So will Derrick Henry. If you can get him for less than 2 firsts, absolutely. That dude will help you win this year.
Yeah, my list was all situation bias. So even if you're not dominating every week and you're not pushing,
and especially
Aaron Jones and Henry, they kind of make the other list. They're good,
very situational. But if you see anyone panicking about Jonathan Taylor, go get him, because he's coming off a bad game where I almost said Najee Harris, where Nyheim Hines saw a lot of usage. That offense isn't what it's going to be yet. Plus, they had a tough matchup, so just ignore. Jonathan Taylor is very, very good.
Jonathan Taylor's going to have a real good game soon. It's going to get harder to buy him. Javonte Williams too. He's underperforming slightly, and already has a workload inside the top 20, I think, at running back. Like it's a good name to target as well. The other guy, who was I just thinking? You said something. I was like, oh, that's a good person to mention. Oh, Aaron Jones. I don't know if it matters too much. I'm happy to buy Aaron Jones right now because this year I think he's just going to keep being Aaron Jones like he's always been, top 5 running back. I would say he's really overproducing in touchdowns right now,
but he has always.
There is always someone.
There's
in Green
two
Bay.
Players on the Packers that score touchdowns. It is Davante Adams and it is Aaron Jones, and that's fine.
That's what I'm saying, though. Right now, Davante Adams has 1 touchdown this year, and Aaron Jones has too many. I think we're going to get a week pretty soon where Davante Adams gets lots of touchdowns. And so I'm saying maybe if you just wait a week, it's not Aaron Jones's week, and maybe it's a little easier next week. Maybe if you're really pushing your luck. But I'm no problem buying him this week if you don't want to
Aaron Jones is overproducing in the receiving touchdowns, which isn't what we're really depending on.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they might go to Adams next week. Which means that he might have a slightly...
Adams is going to run the ball in?
No, you said receiving touchdowns. That's what I'm saying.
Right. So we don't, but we're not expecting Jones to getting 3 receiving touchdowns in a game.
No, that's the point. And so he's
I'm right. Okay.
No,
just move on.
We're agreeing. I'm saying on a week-to-week basis, his points might come down from last week, which will make it easier to perhaps buy him next week.
His points will come down from last week.
Exactly. God damn, make things so hard, ref. Buy all running backs. That's basically the Dynasty.
Oh yeah, all the running backs. Let's do it.
But you do have actually yes, but you have to have 2 very different lists. Ruggs for a second, wouldn't hate it. I would sell Ruggs in all situations. I'm sorry, like he's good. He's on a decent team. You're never gonna want to start him. You're gonna have to get lucky. It's like
so. Yeah, the only reason I would say sure is because if he has 2 back-to-back games, you'll get a first for him.
I mean, if you want to, if you're a good at trader like Russ here, and you can always flip players, then sure.
He will never sustain value. The kind of player he is, he'll never sustain. He's not Deshaun Jackson. No one is Deshaun Jackson. We have to get that in our heads.
And I don't think he necessarily looking at he's a touchdown creator, and just imagine how variable touchdowns are. It's never going to be every week. And one week, like you say, it's going to be 2, and you'll be like, first. But he's a good player. It's just we're not playing real NFL. We're playing fantasy. It was a good job too, because I'd be dead. Really true. Right. An excitement for the recent trade. LOL. Start Woods or Sutton this week.
Woods is like the wide receiver 54 on the season. You go start Sutton.
I think it's definitely Sutton, but I'm actually going to look it up. I have start sit ranks and stuff. I might as well use them now and again.
Oh, look at you, fancy man.
I know, right? It's easily going to be Sutton, but
I mean, the answer is Sutton, just because he has the ceiling that Woods just doesn't, with how much in love Stafford and Kupp are with each other. Like, dude, go and get a bagel with them, scoop some pancakes, whatever they're doing at their breakfast, dates. You need to join them because
it's actually
left out.
pretty close this week. Sutton's in a subpar matchup against Baltimore. Vegas puts it at a 44 total. Woods is playing in a game with a 54 total against Arizona, so it's pass heavy, and also Arizona's giving up more volume and more efficiency. So it's actually pretty close. You could start Woods over Sutton. I think that's the way 4 for 4 has it. I have it reversed. I have Sutton over Woods, and so does Fantasy Pros. I would start Sutton, but honestly, it's kind of a coin toss. If you prefer the one over the other, you're good. That's kind of where I'm at.
I am also terrible at start sits, so take mine with a grain of salt.
That's fair.
I just like Sutton.
No, everyone is. Like I was telling you about those weekly things. I'm trying to predict things using descriptive matchup. It's painful, man. I think anyone that has a good reputation at that is just good at hiding the misses. I'm sorry. I can't believe it at this point. Not really, but you know what I mean. Aaron says, thanks, guys. And you are welcome, Aaron. An opinion is free, but always, this is the only thing that I think I've ever said that's actually helpful. You got to do you, man. If you're just not feeling it, just go with what you think. I have never found anyone different. It's better to miss with your own idea than hit with someone else's. Like, that's the fun of fantasy, knowing you just went with what you felt, no matter what the result.
Because if you start someone because we said so, you still lose. You know, if you it's on you regardless. You could blame us all you want. It's still your team. We don't have the L. So do what you feel is right. We both.
I would say though, I'm happy to be tilted at. Like if you want, you just rather have someone to blame.
Oh yes,
go to and Peter. Then come be mad at me.
I'm fine. I'm too fragile for that. I can't handle that. I will cry.
I will not.
I'm
be
not
upset.
ashamed of it.
Either. Everyone needs to be mad at someone sometime, and I'm happy for it to be me. So if that
I
swings
will live
the decision
stream my tears and make you feel bad about it.
That's fair. Looking forward to that, Russ. Appreciate it.
Don't make me do it.
Don't make me start the player. I think that I don't know. Debo's target share has been solid for 3 games. He's either wide receiver 1 and super flex in San Francisco, or am I being Shanahan?
Shanahan.
You're literally looking at, and this isn't a random flex because believe me, I said this at the time. Brandon Ayuk is good. Brandon Ayuk is coming back, but you're literally looking at one of, I think, maybe 4 people that wrote down and publicly admitted they thought Deebo Samuel was the wide receiver 1 in San Francisco. So I already thought that. So yes, I think it's real. I do think Brandon Ayuk's
have a sustainable target share.
That's why I like players like Deebo. That's how he works. He works like Jarvis Landry, or who else were we talking about earlier? Christian Kirk. He's more of a volume player. And so if he's on an offense and he's healthy, he's going to attract more touches to himself than your average bear. That's a problem with the X receiver, by the way. It's not always true. And why I'm not as up on the Mike Williams as you. I like the Keenan Allens. I think Brandon Ayuk might be the points wide receiver 1. He's definitely going to be the leading wide receiver in points. Occasional weeks, he's going to be good. But I think Debo's going to continue to be the better bet for volume, especially in that offense the way it's constructed. And my only question is Kittle. I'm a little confused about Kittle. That's something we haven't mentioned, I don't think. We were just talking about top 2 tight ends, and Kittle didn't come up. What does that take?
He's not there anymore.
He's not. You mentioned his yards after catch last time we talked about it.
Efficiency at tight end is scary to depend on. That's the thing. Why is Kelsey the tight end 1? Besides the fact that he's insanely good at his job, but he gets the targets for it. Why is Waller? He gets the targets for it. Why have I been terrified of Mark Andrews from the beginning? He doesn't get targets. He's just every once in a while very good with what he gets. You know, the touchdowns in Baltimore always went to like 6 different tight ends, so it was tough to depend on which tight end is going to get it. And I mean, Kittle, the thing is, he used to have the volume and be good after the catch. Now with a healthy Deebo and a healthy Ayuk, maybe the volume isn't there for him anymore, in which case there absolutely will be games where he'll break a couple of tackles, hopefully get into the end zone and score you 20 points. But I think we might be in for more games of 9 with him going forward.
Yeah,
and it's nothing bad about the player. It's just the reality of the situation he's in. Deebo gets hurt. Ayuk gets benched again because he's not playing as good as the players behind him. Maybe that changes and Kittle starts
Kittle's
getting the volume
a
back.
different kind of fish who, you're right, depending on efficiency. And I think I'm in the exact same place here. Right now, Debo's outkicking his coverage. Like, he shouldn't have 38% of air yards or 31% of targets.
Well,
It's
that
just
first
been
week just
it's been
is a little skewing.
Shanahan-friendly game scripts. He's been able to do what he wants. And like
Yeah.
I said, Debo was good last week. What was he? Wide receiver 25. Debo finished 47. Like, that's going to happen. But again, Debo out-targeted him. And I didn't see the Kittle thing coming. I thought the best bet on the offense was Kittle, to be honest.
I am right there with you.
A healthy Kittle restricts him more. I think it's going to balance out a little more as the season progresses. Shanahan will
Probably.
stop thinking he knows a thing or two about motivating players. I've really worked out with Pettis, didn't it? And Brandon Ayuk will bounce back up to a much more reasonable balance.
Yeah.
What I didn't see coming is that both of them will be limiting Kittle's ceiling. I thought it was going to be Kittle and then they'd be fighting. Instead, he's in a
Yes.
three-way triumvirate, and that's essentially what you're saying. It's all three, and this is the way it balances out.
Yeah.
It's going to go up and down week to week, so I would not start Kittle or Ayuk.
You have to start Kittle every week. You have to.
It's just, again, because of the tight ends, maybe a little more situation or offensive scheme prone. And like I said, in the offensive, the Chiefs and Las Vegas, that's fine for Waller and Kelsey, but with a Debo on the field and Ayuk as well, like I said, it's just too much for him to sustain. And that still puts him in like a really rare territory for a tight end. Like, there are very few tight ends that I would want more than Kittle, or want at all. At least he's on the want list. Mostly, I'll just be like, nah, I'll stream. I'm fine. There's a Jack Doyle every week. Don't worry about it. He's a thing again. I don't know. Where can one get those sweet DLF shirts? I know there's a link to the store on the DLF site, but you probably know more about the shirts.
DynastyLeagueFootball.com. Up top, where on the menu, there's one that says shop or something like that. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I don't know, but you can go to Hot Topic and get this awesome Coco shirt.
I was gonna say, don't you have a shirt shop that gives money to charity though? While we're talking shirts,
I don't have DLF shirts, but yeah, ffpodshirts.storeenvy.com. Ton of podcasts t-shirts on there and Scott Fishbowl stuff, and every penny from now until the end of the year is gonna go to Fantasy Cares, which ends up going to Toys for Tots. It's every single we don't keep a single penny. All of it goes to charity. Yeah.
I was going to say, while these DLF sheets are the best, and you should definitely consider investing in one if you have the free cash.
I did.
Yeah. Knowing Ryan and everyone else at the DLF, like, they'd rather you, if you want a cool football shirt, and they'd probably rather the money go straight to Scott Fishbowl charity. They do a lot for those. So your choice. At least you got choices then. The one thing about DLF shirts is really only like a color change. There's just the one really cool shirt. At least you got some options in your store for a few others if you're looking.
Yeah, and at the expo, I don't know if they're alive in the shop because they gave me one, so I'm not going to go look for it. There was two shirts there. One that it was a list of all of the awesome tools from DLF, like the Trade Analyzer, the Trade Finder. And then there was one with, I am mad at this shirt because they didn't choose any of mine, like verbiage that DLFers came up with, and like stuff that's like accepted in the ether of the fantasy football community, like productive struggle and all of whatever the crap is. But nothing I say made it on the shirt.
One thing I did, but it got edited because I think I swore at the time. Yeah, let me, I won't share because then we'll lose Rush. But if you go to the Dynasty League homepage, go into resources, there's a little link that says DLF store. I just had it. Where'd it go? And yeah, they asked us in the they asked us in the Slack chat for like sayings that DLF has made famous. And I think it's the undrafted free agents one of mine that made it on. Or something like it.
I don't even remember what I suggested anymore, but clearly I hate them because mine weren't there, or they hate me. Either way, there's hatred somewhere. I'm
wrong. They do have a few other options now. There's one with an off season crossed out because there is no off season. That's actually pretty swanky. I like that one. And
John Bosch just showed up now, by the way.
Oh, good. I can stop talking.
He missed the 20 minutes that we talked about him and shows up now.
and just completely ripped him for being an old man and stuff, or wanting to be an old man, technically. Could the Raiders potentially become the 49ers light, where Waller gets lessened by the wide receivers, Myriad? No. I don't think. I mean, you're looking.
Gruden isn't clever enough. Let's put it that way. No, they know what they are. It works. They're not going to change it. It's Waller's team.
Waller is the Deebo Samuel of the offense, and they don't have a Deebo Samuel wide receiver. They just don't have that guy, and they don't want him. Why would they? They've got Waller. Like, it would be great for us to find another wide receiver. They don't. They have Waller. Shanahan has liked to construct it a little differently, but that's what they want. That's why, I mean, I get this stuff wrong all the time. Coaches don't tell me their secret plans, but that seems to be where it's at. I definitely don't think Ruggs or Edwards are going to take the volume job there, despite being good. As soon as I click. Oh, sorry, dude.
Yeah, he comes in and we're talking about how great DLF is and where you should buy their merch.
Oh, no, we're literally talking about just shirts. Which I guess.
Oh, yeah, but we did bring up FF Pod shirts, which John helped us with the Scott Fish stuff this year. So we were talking about you a little bit.
That's fair. I don't know about this DLF shirt that's like a helmet with a DLF logo, because it kind of looks like the moon with a DLF logo, because it's too big. It's too big.
I looked at the rest of them. The only DLF shirt I liked is the straight up logo, the one you're wearing. I bought that same shirt.
It's true. Hey, it's getting cold, so I might need one of these hoodies. This guy looks like hella fit wearing it, I'm sure.
I know. I wouldn't get it because he just looks too good wearing it.
See, I assume I'll look that good when I wear it. That's what the picture teaches me.
Oh, see, I just know that I will feel bad about myself when I don't look like that guy.
This is why I don't do ads or subscriptions or anything on my like, I'm too susceptible to marketing. I literally think I could look that attractive, and I just don't need to do that to other people, because it's not true. I've never looked as good as the people in the picture.
I think you look good.
I think you look good too. Thank you. Thank you. You posted that up. I was 100% kidding. Yeah. I'm taking that down. No one will know you were kidding. There you go. Sorry, we got real off track there. That's my bad. Did I write down anything else? I think, yeah. I just want a few extra things to help people hate me. I still think Mike Davis is the Atlanta running back one. I think he's the running back. I think Cordero Patterson is good, especially with the ball in his hands. I think he's still more of a receiver than a running back, and I think Mike Davis is going to have a game. Hate me, I don't care. And I was going to ask
anyone cares enough about the
why do you have to hurt
Atlanta
me like that?
backfield?
Well, I'm out here, like, I'm having fun believing that everyone's thinking about Mike Davis 24/7, and you're like, no, Pete, like, can just let me have that one.
Oh man, JJ Nelson is still in the league, by the way. He's in Indianapolis.
Oh my god, do you remember the J Nelson, all the different J's in Arizona that one time, where there were 3 wide receivers and you never knew who was scoring?
Yeah, it was going to be Steve.
I think
Preston.
JJ Nelson.
Come on, man.
Okay.
John
and
Brown.
the other thing I have written down here, just to make sure I take off everything, is Daryl Henderson might play this week. Do you think Sony took the job, or it's going to be back to mostly Daryl Henderson when he does get back? Which is kind of where
I think it. I don't think Sony won the job. Let's put it that way. Whether it ends up becoming a split just for the hell of it, or if it goes back to Henderson, I don't know. Either way, I'm fine avoiding starting either of those until we see what it is. I get that the first week Henderson had workhorse workload, but I'm fine waiting to see how that plays out. At this point, you've survived 2 weeks without seeing that, so yeah, don't worry about it.
If Daryl Henderson's playing, I'd probably play him as a running back 2, not a flex. Sony Michel, a desperation running back 2, maybe, but I'm less likely to start him even if Henderson's out. Like, he was fine, and then that's Sony Michel. He's fine, or he gets hurt. I hope he doesn't get hurt. I'm just hoping players don't get hurt at this point. Just please don't do it. Anything else for you? Anything I missed? Dynasty, future things where, I don't know. Dynasty 2021 thoughts,
dude. Bedtime. That's my thoughts right now.
That's my thought too. Yeah, thanks everyone for checking it out. Let me know If you think I should get more organized, everyone always had. Or if you see anything added to the show, you can see us every Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah, it's Wednesday
Today's
today.
Wednesday.
9:30, trying to talk about Dynasty on a weekly basis, which is mostly turned into a conversation about trade value, I've noticed. Well, it's often the best way of framing it, but hopefully we're leading to slightly more cunning insights than that. And occasionally John Bosch shows up and makes fun of us. So that's always fun. So again, the outro just says, well, I guess we're done here.